Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranga, Maya Purushashi, Gauranga, Jaya Maya Purushashi. Jaya Shri Gopinath, Shri Gopinath, Shri Gopinath, Shri Gopinath. Jaya Shri Gopinath, Shri Gopinath, Shri Gopinath, Jaya Shri Gopinath. Jaya Giridhari Ram, Giridhari Ram, Giridhari Ram, Jaya Giridhari Ram. Jaya Giridhari Ram, Giridhari Ram, Giridhari Ram, Jaya Giridhari Ram. Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Nrsimhadeva, Nrsimhadeva, Jaya Nrsimhadeva. Jaya Nrsimhadeva, 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 Jaya Nrsimhadeva. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnu Bhaktivedanta Heritage Amen. It's some founder Jaya Shri Prabhupada. Jaya Vishnu Bhaktivedanta is a president of Shri Srimad Bhagavatam Class, Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada Ki Jaya, Nanda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jaya, Namacharya Jaya Dasi Ki Jaya. Ramsa Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda Shri Advaita, Shri Vasari Gaurabhat Ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shankar Radhan Gopinath Ki Jai, Shri Vrinda Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Dham Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Chandamai Ki Jai, Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Samved Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitya Guru Purnanda. Hare Krishna. All Guru Sri Samudra. Hare Krishna. All Guru Sri Samudra. Hare Krishna. Shri Guru Shri Guru To our spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean between the suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish that my consciousness was purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attached to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. It opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. Omnipotent remains, I hear the verses restored. The veil of scriptures through his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us to share your lotus feet. Your fragrance spreads out the three worlds of these. Take shelter of your lotus feet. Jai. Dear Lord, please recover the time, my association. Please make it worthy of your mercy, so the Scottish doctor flourishes among the happy devotees, and the blessings of Sri Lakshmi Devi, especially with love to you and not devotees. Please recover the time, my association.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Namunatira Vanachari
Namunatira Vanachari
Jamunatira Vanachari
Namunatira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Prajajana Ramjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ramjana Prajajana Ramjana Jamuna Tirvanchari Jamuna Tirvanchari Tirvanchari Jaya Raja Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Raja Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya
Srimad Bhagavatam Class, Srimad Bhagavatam Class, could you turn on the PA system? Let there be a temple. This is chapter 7. Bombay, March 20th, 1974. Disciples and ISKCON life members continued to discuss with Srila Prabhupada about confronting the police commissioner's refusal to grant ISKCON permission to build a temple at Hare Krishna land. Ironically, ISKCON's property was bordered on one side by a large cinema hall, and every evening, both before and after the movie, a long line of traffic would form. The honking horns and the hundreds of pedestrians coming and going created much noise and congestion. If the neighborhood and government could tolerate a cinema, then how, without prejudice, could they call the Hare Krishna kirtans a nuisance? Although addressing this specific issue of government permission, Srila Prabhupada also preached on the greater principle of how governments in Kali Yuga restrict religious life. The government policy, he said, is that religion is an opiate of the people. They think religion is just a sentiment. They want to open slaughterhouses and kill these loitering cows. Their conclusion is that religion has no value. Therefore, their decision to not encourage these temples and this bhajan. Therefore, their decision is to not encourage these temples and this bhajan. From their point of view, it is useless. Some of Prabhupada's Bombay friends suggested he work through the Jan political party, which supported Hinduism, and thus formed a strong political coalition. But Srila Prabhupada was more concerned to use this opportunity for preaching. I suggest that we make vigorous propaganda, he said. Hold meetings in big halls so that the public may understand at least that this movement is very important. Let there be advertisements that we will speak on different subject matters, and then I will come and speak. In that meeting, make a nice gentleman the president, create public opinion so that they will come and sign. Yes, here must be one temple. We will prove from sastric evidence, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvida Prajantimam Jana Sukritino Jana. This word bhajan from bhajante is used with reference to the very pious men, Sukritina. The opposite kind of man is Duskritina, the miscreants. So bhajan is for the pious and pious man, as recommended in the Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is held in great estimation all over the world. And yet he has accused bhajan as a nuisance. How rascal and ignorant. We have to make it clear that bhajan is so important. Bhagavad Gita is meant for solution of all material problems, but the people of India are not accepting it. My disciples can also speak and say, you please come with us. We are foreigners, but we know Krishna is not for this or that. So why are you Indians lacking? You accept your culture. We have to take to Krishna. And Krishna says that simply by kirtan, one becomes free from all contamination. So why not join with us? What is the wrong there? It is stated in your sastra, and we have adopted it, and we are feeling better. So why are you so callous? You educated youth and gentlemen. This kind of propaganda has to be made. Srila Prabhupada had abandoned the idea of direct political agitation, but he continued to speak against the police commissioner's decision and to deliberate on overcoming it. He considered the matter from all possible angles, to pro and con. At one point he said that if they could not get sanction to build a temple, then they should build a hotel. I'm trying to get sanction, he said. If you don't give permission, then hotel. Build a hotel in front and the temple in the rear, suggested Tamal Krishna Goswami. Yes, Prabhupada replied. And he instructed his men further on dealing with opposition. As with the struggle to acquire the land, this present struggle to also threaten to become a long legal battle. Prabhupada remained always transcendental, however, even while fighting, and he maintained his normal activities in Bombay, enjoying the mild tropical climate. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Shri Shukavacha.
Shri Sukha
Iti Samabhito
Samabhito
Mahabhagavato
Mahabhagavato
Bhagavatas
Bhagavatas
Tribhuvana
Tribhuvana
Guru
Guru
Iti Samabhito Mahabhagavato
Bhagavato Mahabhagavato
Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guru
Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guru
Anushasana
Anushasana
Atmano
Atmano
Lagutaya
Lagus
Avatnata
Bhagavato
Shirudaro
Sridhara
Bhatam
Adam
Iti
Iti
Sabahu Manam
Sapahumadam
Uvaha
Uvaha
Anushasana Matmano Lagutaya Vanata Anushasana Atmano Lagutaya Vanata Shirudaro Bhatamiti Sabahu Manam Uvaha
Anushasana Atmano Lagutaya Vanata Shirodharo Padamiti Sabahumanam Vaha
Shri Shukavacha
Shri Sukha
Iti Samabhita Mahabhagavato Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guru
Iti Samabhito Mahabhagavato Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guru
Anushasana Matmano Lagutaya Vanata Shirudara Bhatamiti Sabahu Manam Vaha
Anushasana Matmano Lagutaya Vanata Shirodhara Padamiti Sabahumanam Vaha
Shri Sukavacha
Shri Sukha Vacha
Iti Samabhito Mahabhagavato Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guru
Iti Samahito Mahabhagavato Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guru
Anushasana Atmano Lagutaya Vanata Shirodara Bhakta Kriti Sabahumanam Uvaha
Anushasana Atmano Lagutaya Vanata Shirodhara Padamiti Sabahumanam Vaha
Shri Shukavacha
Shri Sukha Vacha
Iti Samabhito Mahabhagavato
Iti
Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guru
Iti Samabhito Mahabhagavato Bhagavatas Tribhuvana Guru
Anushasana Atmano Lagutaya Vanata Shirodhara Bhatamiti Sabahu Manam Vivaha
Anushasana Matmano Lagutaya Vanata Shirodhara Padamiti Sabahumanam Vaha
So please repeat. Shri Sukavacha
Shri Sukha
Shri Sukadeva Goswami said Iti
Iti
thus
Thus
Samabhita
Samabhita
completely instructed
Completely instructed
Mahabhagavata
Mahabhagavata
the great devotee
the great devotee
Bhagavata
Bhagavata
of the most powerful Lord Brahma
of the most powerful Lord Brahma
Tribhuvana
Tribhuvana
of the three worlds,
of the three worlds,
Guru
Guru,
is the spiritual master,
spiritual master,
Anushasanam
Anushasana,
the order,
the order,
Atmana
Atmana,
of himself,
of himself,
Lagutaya
Lagutaya,
because of inferiority,
because of inferiority,
Amanata
Avanata,
Bhada
Bhadda,
Shiradhara
Shirodhara,
his head,
his head,
Bhadam
Bhadda,
yes sir,
yes sir,
Iti
Iti,
thus
thus,
Sabahumanam
Sarvabhavanam,
with great respect,
with great respect,
Vivaha
Vivaha,
carried out.
Bhadda,
Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Sri Sukadeva Swami continued, after thus being fully instructed by Lord Brahma, who is the spiritual master of the three worlds, Priyavata, his own position being inferior, offered obeisances, accepted the order and carried it out with great respect. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued,
Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued,
after thus being fully instructed by Lord Brahma,
after thus being fully instructed by Lord Brahma,
who is the spiritual master of the three worlds,
spiritual master of the three worlds,
Priyavrata, his own position,
Priyavrata, his own position,
being inferior,
being inferior,
offered obeisances,
offered obeisances,
accepted the order and carried it out with great respect.
accepted the order and carried it out with great respect.
Sri Priyavrata was the grandson of Lord Brahma. Therefore, according to social etiquette, his position was inferior. It is the duty of the inferior to carry out the order of the superior with great respect. Priyavrata therefore immediately said, yes sir, I shall carry out your order. Priyavrata is described as a Mahabhagat, a great devotee. The duty of a great devotee is to carry out the order of the spiritual master, or the spiritual master in the Parampara system. As described in Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Eva Parampara Praptam, one has to receive the instructions of the Supreme Lord through the disciplic chain of spiritual masters. A devotee of the Lord always considers himself a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, after thus being fully instructed by Lord Brahma, who is the spiritual master of the three worlds, Priyavrata, his own position being inferior, offered obeisances, accepted the order, and carried it out with great respect. So we see here how the potency of instruction. Like in the previous verse, it says how Lord Brahma instructing Priyavrata to take shelter of the Lord, and in this way he can overcome the pushings and pullings of the mind and senses, and also to accept material enjoyment as an order. And in this way, he'll be liberated from material association. and be able to carry out the orders according to his position as a ruler of the world. So, so because it was the order of the Lord for the surrendered devotee, he does things that he wouldn't or not ordinarily do in the service of the Lord, and he accepts things that he wouldn't normally accept, whether possessions or activities for the service of the Lord. So it wasn't in Maharaj Priyavrata was no way inclined to take up on a materialistic life or a worldly life. Whether it's materialistic or not depends on the consciousness of the performer of the performer of such activities. So he's accepted worldly life on the order of the Lord, even to accept sense gratification. But because it was the order of the Lord, it was a way for him to remain liberated. Whereas if he didn't accept that, then he may have been a less fortunate situation. So Prabhupada is saying here how important it is to carry out the order of the spiritual master. It's the duty of the inferior to carry out the order of the superior with great respect. So this is a culture. Even in spiritual life, there is hierarchy, as Prabhupada says here, in the parampara system. So there's those who've been appointed to instruct and engage others in this system of accepting the instruction and carrying it out. So someone has to give the orders, someone has to say what's needed, someone has to have the bigger picture to know what's required in the long run and on a daily basis to work towards that. So that's why we have in our own society GBC representing Srila Prabhupada. Their desire to maintain the society according to how Srila Prabhupada instructed. And then you have the regional leaders of different departments or ministries of the governing body commission, who work to see that standards are being maintained, whether it's Sankirtan or deity worship or devotee care. Administration, all sorts of things. And then you have the temple presidents who have the responsibility to make sure that all these departments are maintained according to the standards set and to work to improve, or even if they have the capacity to excel, and in this way share with others the ways and means how that would take place, that others can take advantage. Because the nice thing about ISKCON is that we may be weak in one area, but there's for somewhere else in the world it may be their strength. So we've always got someone we can hear from and who can give instructions so that we may be able to be successful in that area also. There's so much resources in that way. And we have governing body commission, strategic planning team, which racking their brains and brainstorming different innovative ways of reaching to every individual member of the society, that they may be able to provide so many resources, workshops, even online retreats to help the individual nourish their own Krishna consciousness in a way that inspires them. They're searching out all sorts of means of inspiration. So in this way, if we want to progress, then it's imperative that we accept instruction and work out ways of how to carry out that order. And this way, the Lord is pleased. And then we can always be liberated from material association and be able to carry out the orders of the Lord in our own constitutional position. So this is the way of being liberated, and this is the way of being free from Maya and its influence, and also to be empowered to carry out the orders just by accepting it. And it's maybe a matter of time, but just accepting the order, the instruction, and our endeavour, because it's just not by our endeavour alone that we're able to succeed. It's always Krishna's mercy. So the two to go together is known as two fingers. The Damodar Lila is the illustration of this, how Mother Yashoda tried her best to tie up Krishna, but no matter how many lengths of rope she had, it was always 2 fingers too short. So she was putting the endeavour in because she wants to see Krishna nicely trained and disciplined so that he'd be a nice boy when he grows up, in a position as a mother. And the Lord, he wasn't satisfied with just being tied up just like that, but he arranged the pastime so that others could see how he's not bought, he's not just by saying a few prayers that he's satisfied, or he prefers Mother Yashoda's tying more than the chanting of the Vedic hymns by the Brahmins, and the Brahmins are very dear to him. So that's another hierarchy there. Being Mother Yashoda being superior to the Brahmins. So he wanted to be satisfied that she was making that endeavour, and then when he saw the perspiration on her forehead, then he gave in and allowed himself to be tied up. So if we really want to win the mercy of the Lord and the Lord's grace, then we have to put some perspiration on our forehead in our endeavour to please Him, whether it's mentally or physically. And then this way, according to the Lord's sweet will, He'll reciprocate and grant success to our endeavours. Without His mercy, success is not there. With every activity, whether one's a devotee or not, the Lord has to give His sanction. But then we have to make sure that we're doing the right activity, accepting from instruction from the right source in this way, not that it's just coming from our mind and so on, so because the Lord may give sanction to our activity. He may allow us to do something averse to the instruction of the spiritual master, but we will also take the result of that activity, which is, it may be pious or impious. It means prolonged stay in the material world. So, therefore, the devotee is careful to discriminate with this instruction that's transcendental, or just a matter of piety, or downright simple. So it may be even our nature to be impious. So, but the Lord is in the heart. He can see our sincerity, and it's just a matter of time before we're purified of these unwanted conditionings or habits, and we look back and see how we're not, that influence is, to do such things isn't there. So it's just a matter of time, and devotees can associate with others who've had prolonged practice and experience to be able to have confidence in this and continue with their enthusiasm and remain inspired. So the association of devotees in the Guru Parampara, who are acting under the Guru Parampara, is so essential. So not to treat them as an equal, but here Priyabhata is giving an example of how he saw himself as an inferior, and this way he knew his position and acted accordingly. He didn't kind of slap him on the back and all this kind of thing in a mood of camaraderie. That's not required. And it can actually diminish the fibre of respect that has to run through any relationship. So that's a sign of sincerity also, that one has the respect for the superior and acts accordingly. Doesn't overstep the mark. Otherwise, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna and Krishna's relationship was one of friendship. And there's that verse where after Krishna shows his universal form. Yeah, so in the 11th chapter, Arjuna sees how his so-called friend is the source of everything, the master of the worlds, the supreme in every respect, controller of all controllers. Think how he can, the living entities in this world, he engages them. They're just like under his control. They're all like moths, taking birth, but being attracted to the fire. They burn in the fire of death. Arjuna says, thinking of you as my friend, I've rashly addressed you, O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories. Please forgive me for whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay in the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. So this is Arjuna, for our benefit, knowing what the proper mood is towards a superior, to not treat them as an equal. Otherwise, this diminishes the mood of service also, in that it kind of maybe puts less importance or cheapens it. So we have to be very careful that Prabhupada says to see everyone as guru, and because everybody has is unique in their relationship with Krishna. So if Krishna finds them, created them unique, everyone unique, then there's something we can learn from everybody. Everybody has a different perspective, and so to seek out the individual vision of the devotees, in this way, through discussion of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, at the basis of all other books, then one becomes more broad-minded and more mature in what to practice. Unless we do this, we remain immature, because we have to go through, there's the 3 stages, the Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttama Adhikaris. So the Kanishta means unsteady devotional service, because it's more on the sentimental platform, according to one's feelings and senses, and rather than higher experience knowledge, like the Madhyamacharya, he discriminates. Then the Kanishta tends to see the deity, just go towards the deity in the temple, and that's his focus. It doesn't respect the devotees, and has a more materialistic outlook. So this is not a good foundation to base one's Krishna consciousness on. One has to be sure to advance by having faith, developing his faith, and associating with devotees, so that one can properly engage in service. And it's also the first item of Bhakti Yoga to hear. Unless we hear, we can't chant. We're not able to share. We can't think, we know, we can't be fixed in our own conceptions of things, which may, unknown to us, be misconceptions. So the check and balance is Guru, Sadhu and Sastra, to know that we're properly on the path. So any comments or questions at this point? Or any reflections?
I'm thinking about this. You're talking about, having a proper mood towards your superiors. And I was thinking about, how to kind of develop that like serious, mood of service towards them. Like just taking how to develop that, taking their instructions kind of seriously, not kind of ones that kind of say, oh yeah, I'll do that, and then, kind of.
Yes, or not do that. So But Prabhupada very much appreciated devotees who are steady in their service. We maybe find a last way in Krishna consciousness to know what our fortes are, even if, and for superiors to know also how best to engage a person. So if we find that if we're finding some difficulty with something, then we can inquire confidentially how that this is the situation. What should I do? You're still opening yourself to instruction, and in this way, it may be baby steps to get there. So they may see a certain strength in you that you're not so much aware of, but they may just encourage you to continue to pursue it, or there may be a complete change. In this way, we're confident of Krishna's mercy, of receiving Krishna's mercy that way. If we make up our own minds, then especially in the beginning stages, then we're kind of fully on, we're putting our spiritual life at risk in that we're not connected to that line. So capricious work or whimsical work just according to our whims is something that's recommended. It's always to seek training and instruction every step of the way, then we're sure of success, and the progress is for sure.
This is kind of related, but how to know, you're talking about like not letting the mind, listening to the right source of, instruction, not listening to the mind, and how to know whether it's the mind or whether it's Paramatma.
Again, like the check and balance is Guru, Sadhu and Sastra, so if we check with them, we can either research it. It's always good to research it oneself first by hearing what says in what Prabhupada says on these things, and then take it to Sadhu or Guru full confirmation, or just an elaboration. Maybe we've understood it, maybe at the wrong, not taking a proper understanding of it, but we go to them to confirm what we're thinking, or if we come to the right conclusion or not. Or they can elaborate to take it a bit further to deepen our understanding. Yeah, that's the main thing. And as one goes on in Krishna consciousness, in this way our intelligence is developed, nourished, so that we're able to have that discrimination ourselves, what's the right or wrong thing to do, according to time, place and circumstance, because we may be caught in a situation where it's not possible there and then to judge and to ask. So we have to come to a point where we can judge for ourselves. Because, and brahmachari training is for that. Any reflections, John? Or anything that you took from what was said?
Yeah, just that you've got to respect other people who's here, if wasn't trying to carry out their order.
But if we can't, then it's not that we can't say anything and grit our teeth and bear it, although that might be the situation sometimes, because when we do, we find it's like a bridge that takes us over to the other side of being broken free from a certain attachment or rebellion of the mind. That it kind of reveals to the mind that it wasn't so bad after all. What was all the fuss about, sort of thing. So that's another thing. It helps us to be strong in controlling the mind and see the mind for what it is, and how fun and how we shouldn't take it as an authority. Unless it's reminding us of previous instructions and what we've read and so on, that'll back it up. At the same time, if one has a certain vision or viewpoint, one can look at Sastra and pick up all sorts of things that one thinks will support it. This is what's done sometimes, somebody wants to do a particular thing or have a particular say about something, and they pick out all the things like that to support it. But someone who's mature in their Krishna consciousness and more experienced can see it for what it is and give guidance accordingly, if the person wants to take it, because sometimes it's pride there, so if there's pride, then they won't be able to hear. But still, when, like Arjuna, he surrendered, he said, I'm a servant, I'm a soul surrendered unto you, please instruct me. But it wasn't that he agreed to fight. That doesn't mean that he agreed to fight. He was wanting instruction to bring him to that point of fighting. He wasn't averse to that instruction. He just wanted to he wanted Krishna to conquer his mind and so that he'd be free from the mind's arguments, and so that he could carry out the instruction single-pointedly. So we may have doubts about the instruction and so on. We think, due to what about my relationships? What about my physical needs? What about my social needs? What about this? So Arjuna put all those forward, and Krishna, in the beginning, wasn't so inclined to be his guru. He said, well, but I'm your friend, Arjuna. If I give you instruction, how seriously are you going to take it? You know. So he wanted to be sure of Arjuna's submission to Krishna as an authority. And then he instructed him. So if we don't get instruction, then you have to think, am I not being submissive enough? And the devotees can't be bothered with me, because it can be like that sometimes. Maybe has difficulty with something, and then find devotees are standing back and not giving any further instruction on it. So it's because they know I'm not going to take it. So that's not a good situation. Unless we've connected with them and put forward our difficulties so that they can understand and know how to instruct to help us to go forward in that direction. It may be more baby steps rather than leaps and bounds. So wherever we are in Krishna consciousness, there's always somewhere we can progress from. There's never any loss. There's no loss or diminution. In this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. And even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So that means if there is no endeavor, that means that there is loss and there is diminution. It's like riding up a hill. If you stop, you're just going to roll backwards. You know, if you stop endeavoring, then you lose your speed, and there's diminution. You just go backwards. So we always have to make sure that proper endeavor is there, and so that we're always gaining and going forward. And it may appear sometimes that we're going back and we're sliding back and so on. So many so-called obstacles may be there, or hurdles that we have to jump over and try climb. But the pure devotee, as long as that endeavour is there, it may seem that we're not going in for ourselves, that we're not getting anywhere, but the devotee can see how our ups and downs like that. But the devotee can see how they're actually ups and downs going towards Krishna. So he's like Krishna, he relishes the anxiety of the devotee and his endeavors to please him, no matter how excruciating the mind is, or maybe some physical ailment may be there that he doesn't neglect, but he still endeavors despite that kind of handicap. And in this way, Krishna really sees how devotees' heart. He sees the heart. It's like anyone can put a show on and try and fool everybody else, but you can't fool Krishna. So when that devotee is endearing and trying to do the right thing at every moment, then he's sure to win Krishna's mercy, and success is just around the corner. Is that reassuring, John?
Yeah, it's something.
Because the mind may rebel, but if we can continue, then we're eligible for the kingdom of God. That's it. Any reflections, Raj?
The verse that you said about from chapter 11, quoted, when Arjuna gets the realization that Krishna is not his friend, but it's his supreme person. I'm thinking back to the point where Arjuna and Duryodhana went to see Krishna, ask him which side, and at that stage Arjuna did not know Krishna was God. This is just realized now, you see. So he said, okay, I'll accept Krishna, I don't mind, because Duryodhana took the armies of Krishna.
Yeah.
So that means Arjuna at that stage made a mistake. I mean, surely the armies of Krishna were more important than Krishna at that stage, because he didn't know Krishna was God.
So saying that Arjuna didn't know Krishna was God at that time.
Isn't it? That verse is saying, I've just realized all my mistakes that you're the supreme God.
Well, we have to remember this is past time, and also Arjuna did know that Krishna was God.
But he's saying here, he's saying, I've just realized it. I'm sorry for my mistakes that I treated you as a friend.
Well, this is because if we see the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna put Arjuna into illusion. So because in his normal frame of mind, he would just fight, no question. But Krishna wanted to speak the Bhagavad Gita, so therefore he put Arjuna into some illusion, so that he'd be able to instruct him and give him instructions that would be for the benefit of mankind. So at that time he put him under illusion, and he asked questions on our behalf. He's just acting as a condition. Arjuna's just acting like a conditioned soul, but he isn't one. It's only at that time he was put into some illusion. So the reason why Arjuna didn't take the army, he just wanted Krishna because he knew he was God. He knew that
So, sorry, if you knew it's God, then there's cheating. Then, I know Krishna's God, I'm going to win anyway, so that's part of the cheat, isn't it?
No, he knows that victory is there. Whatever happens, he just wants to be on Krishna's have Krishna in everything, because as it says in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, and after this we have to stop. Yatra Yogeshvara Krishna, Yatra Parto Danurdana, Tatra Shri Vijaya Bhutir, Driva Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion.
So Sanjay said it.
Yes. So this is that's why, with Krishna there would always be success, or in the long run may not be immediate, but then they knew that their sole purpose was to please Krishna. So that was the whole purpose of their whole life. This wars, whether they lose it or not, wasn't really their concern. They just whatever Krishna wants. The Krishna wants this fight to happen. He went over to Duryodhana, and Duryodhana said he wouldn't grant the Pandavas, who are the rightful heirs to the rulership. He wouldn't give them enough space to rule, even that would cover the point of a needle. So then Krishna said there has to be war, because Krishna wanted Dharma to to be ruled by the world to be ruled by Dharma, and Duryodhana wasn't going to do that, so he wanted him out. So in this way, Krishna said there has to be war, and so they accepted that. They accepted to take up arms and fight. Not that they were inclined to do so, but because Krishna wanted it, then they agreed to do so. And then they went. Then Krishna said he's not going to take part, but you can have me or my army. And Duryodhana, thinking materialistically, that thinking physical power was the strength, he took the army. Whereas Juna knew that you can have any big army, but it doesn't mean you're going to win. If I alongside Krishna, and at least to have him, even if we do win, that doesn't matter. My sole purpose and my whole reason for existence is Krishna. I'm satisfied with this too. So, like that. And because when we have Krishna, then happiness will be there. When we please Krishna, then we know that our happiness is guaranteed. We may go through some distress for Krishna, but the result is that we become back into we return to our original constitutional position of the eternal loving servant of the Lord in full bliss and full knowledge. And for the soul, ignorance and distress is what he the conditioned soul, ignorance and distress is something he's always fighting to reduce. Whereas for this, because it's our natural condition to be eternally in complete bliss and perfect knowledge. So with Krishna we can have that. Only with Krishna we can have that. And this is what the relationship with Krishna is the most important. Not physical strength or what the demigods give, which are temporary. And Krishna may give it also, but if it's going to be a detriment to our bhakti, to our devotion, then he won't. We've always got the choice whether we want what Maya gives or what Krishna gives. And we can be confused with who's giving what, but as long as we're following this spiritual master's guidance, then we can be assured that we'll have our relationship with Krishna intact, or at least be Krishna, because our position is to convince Krishna whether we actually want to go back home or to go back to Godhead. Do we actually want Krishna as our Lord and Master and regain our eternal relationship with him? Do we actually want that? So that'll be tested. And if we're motivated for something else, then that'll come out too. So this is what bhakti is all about. Krishna it's easy to give anything of this world, an army, whatever. But to have Krishna, that's a different affair. He's not easy to get here. He's not cheap. So that's why the devotee knows that those hurdles and obstacles he accepts them gladly. So in this way, he can prove to Krishna, I do want you. I just want you. He's not going to sidestep the obstacles or things like that. I just want you. See, the opulence of a devotee is internal. So it's not always easy to see. Is that okay? So are you over time?
Yeah.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Islam Guru ki jai, Islam Guru Prabhupada ki jai.
Grace, Vrinda, thank you.
Samavita Bhaktavanta ki jai. Okay. Is anybody online?